Fanatics.
Fanatic.
Fanatics. I just thought it was interesting. I just thought it was an interesting call. The way they did that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, here on Sports Fanatics, we try to see everything.
There was a play yesterday that him and I were going back and forth, and he's like, "Well, no, he was down because his knee was down," and I'm like, "Well, no, he wasn't touched by another player, so he's not down. So if he fumbles the ball after he's down, it's a fumble." And
if he goes down without being touched and the ball comes out, it's a fumble.
It's a fumble, exactly. So
I wonder which game was that in.
I think it was the one the Buffalo game, because he has Diggs and I have Josh Allen. So Diggs has not been catching the ball, and the rumor is that he's going to try and force himself out of Buffalo now again. So he asked to be taken out of Minnesota. Now he's asking to be taken out of Buffalo. The common thread there, it's you, Diggs. So
yeah, I mean, I would have to agree. I mean, I know trying to find a comfy place is a good thing, but you're not going to be the leader.
no.
And you got to remember that most teams, the QB is going to be the leader. And you got to go with that. Just the way it is. You're always, not many teams in the history of football ever had their receivers or any player outside of the quarterback not be the leader of the team.
The Vikings are probably the first one, huh? With Justin
I don't
Jefferson.
know. I mean, well, I don't know. There's probably some teams back in the day. You think about the old Ravens defense team, and you think about
Ray,
what's his name?
Ray Lewis.
Yeah, Ray Lewis. I mean, I think he was captain of running that team. But there's a few of them.
And Kirk Cousins was probably the leader of this team.
The fact that he was having a record year and on a roll, I mean, you got to give him credit for that.
That's the way KOC set him up. So,
so I mean, you can't. I just don't expect many teams in the NFL to ever have their leader of their team not be the quarterback. I mean, you're supposed to build your team around your quarterback, not the other way around. We've seen that. How many teams have we seen where they've got star wide receivers? Cleveland Browns, the prime example. Great wide receiver in Amari Cooper, solid running back in Jerome Ford. Solid. Can't get anything done. Why? Because you got problems at the helm. The leader, the captain of your ship is falling overboard too often. And that is causing major problems for your team. Again, Denver yesterday, they whipped up on Cleveland. I mean, they did. The score was probably better than it should have been, but they did. They put a hurting on them. And Denver's kind of just starting to really get into a stride. And I don't even think they played all that well yesterday, but yet they did. They played well enough to win handily.
So who do you think is going to win tonight?
Well, I still got the Vikes. I mean, as funny as it sounds, I had 7 picks from yesterday. I actually, ironically, I laid a wager on them, and out of my 7 picks so far, 6 of them have hit. I got 1 left to go, and that is the Vikings beating Green Bay tonight, or excuse me, beating Chicago tonight. I do have the Vikes winning that game, but we talked about this, Brad. What do I keep saying about this game? I mean, what have I said? To me, it's the easiest game of the week.
You are like saying it's a matter of fact, is what you're saying.
I firmly believe it's the easiest game of the week. I think
you thought this was the easiest one. All the other ones you thought were a little bit harder, had to put some thought into, but this one you thought was very straightforward, straight cut, easy. Vikings are winning.
It's funny. I picked the Giants too.
Yeah, you did.
The Patriots. I thought that was a no-brainer. And everybody thought, what? And I thought, no, the Giants are bad, but the Patriots are bad. And that was more or less of who's going to be better on the bad day. And
I think a lot of that was Belichick going below 500. People didn't think that was going to happen 2 years in a row, but his team is so bad, and he doesn't have any faith in Mac Jones.
He has none. He even came into yesterday's game with, I don't know who's going to play yet. And that
And
was on Sunday morning.
in the last practice, Caleb Evans was limited, TJ Hawkinson was limited, Justin Jefferson was limited, Brian Asamoah, Jaron Hall, and Nick Mullins were all full participants. There's nobody that is listed as out. There's nobody that's listed as doubtful. The ones that
Yeah.
are questionable are Justin Jefferson, Caleb Evans, and Kyrus Tunga with his knee. So
Well, we
that's
know Jefferson's not coming back today.
well, they
We
were
know that.
saying it. They were going to make it a game time decision, which is what you and I play fantasy football. I hate that. Monday
Yeah.
night you're
Yeah,
making
you
it.
don't know what to
I
do.
can't put someone else in, right? I mean,
Yeah.
fantasy
Only for
football
you,
is
you've
a
already won both your games, so
yes,
it
but
doesn't matter.
fantasy football is about acting like you're the owner of a team or you're the coach of a team, right? And if one
Right.
guy's not going to go, you should be able to put somebody else in, or as a coach, you would be able to put somebody else in. So,
You talk about all those players, but I got to tell you straight up, the bottom line is it's the game, it's the line. This game boils down to me is gridiron action. It's what's going on the line. That is the that's what's going to end up being the resolve of this game. And I've said this for over a week now. Hell, I've said it for 2 weeks now. I believe that the Vikings offensive line is absolutely bigger and stronger than the defensive line of the Bears. I think
which
that
is
gives them the
strange to
ability to
hear.
Yes, but I think that gives them the ability to move the ball, and then as on the ground, which opens up the passing game. And of course, it if they overpressure Dobbs, Dobbs uses his feet. That's a dangerous weapon. The on the flip side of the coin, who's got the better other side of the ball? When the Bears have the ball on offense, how good is the Vikings D line? And to me, it's bigger, better, and stronger. And I don't think the Bears run the ball, which means you're going to force the throw, and that is the only way you can beat the Vikings, right? There's only two ways to beat the Vikes. You either you beat them by the air, or Dobbs shoots himself in the foot. That's it. That's what I see happening. So uh, I just think that I think the Bears are going to get dominated on the line on both sides of the ball, therefore giving the Vikings time of possession and giving Dobbs a chance to do a couple of those scramble touchdowns.
Nice little piece of trivia for today. Which team did the Vikings defeat 37-13 in their first ever regular season game, which was September 17th, 1961?
This is where we need touchdown on here because he would know this. He was there live probably. But I don't know. Let me guess. The Bears.
Very good. Yes.
The Bears. Yeah.
Legendary Bears coach George Halas said that that game was one of the most upsetting coaching moments of his life.
Yeah. And I think this could be the same thing. Like I said, I thought this game would be a dominator. I feel that the Vikings not only are going to win, they're going to win by double digits. I don't think it's going to be close. And when I say double digits, I'm thinking it could be close to a 20-point route. I really
Wow.
don't think it's going to be close at all.
You know, if the Vikings put them away, that would mean that the Vikings are a team that if they can control their turnovers, they absolutely could be a very good playoff team. Yeah. One of the questions is the run game, though. Why are they struggling in the run game right now? If that offensive line is as big and dominant as you say, why are they not running the ball well?
Well, wait a minute. Wait a minute. I said against the Bears. I just want to be clear here. Uh, Again, I look at matchups. There's a reason why I'm 6-0 on the week on my 17 parlay. Uh, there's a reason, and because I'm looking at the matchups of these games. To me, the matchup is that way. Now, can you say the same thing about other teams when the Vikings had to play Atlanta? No, I wouldn't say the same thing there.
Are the Vikings missing Dalvin Cook?
Yes,
Is
100%.
Dalvin Cook is Dalvin Cook missing the Vikings? Yes.
I don't know. Does he enjoy playing video games? I don't know. I don't know. I don't know Delvin personally enough to. I don't know him at all in order to make that comment. So, but no,
That's funny.
to me, this was an easy matchup. I hope I'm right. I think I'm right. I'm pretty confident in my analysis of the game. Again, funny thing about you guys is, and I always tease you and TD about it is you guys, you have the love for the Vikings. TD has the love hate for the Vikings. Me, I have no skin in the North. I have no skin in the game. Period. So I think it's easier to pick I think I just find it easier to pick games when you don't care about, you have no emotional connection to the outcome. You don't. You're just doing it from a strictly a business perspective. What do these
That
two teams look like on paper?
that's a true better statement right there.
And the
Absolutely.
crazy part is look at the way the Raiders and the Chiefs game started yesterday. I mean,
Oh man.
that was the biggest line in the whole week. I mean, I think it was I think the Chiefs had a plus four or a minus 475 on that game. I
Oh
mean,
geez.
and I think it's 6 or 7 minutes into the game, it's 14-0 Raiders. Woo! I mean, everybody was concerned, but in the
Well,
end, man,
Aiden O'Donnell was throwing that ball up for Adams to go get it or Jacoby Myers to go get it. He doesn't have a lot of accuracy. He's just got a big arm and throws it as far as he can. So
well,
he
that's
hit.
that.
He
Yeah.
hit.
Well, he hit a number of times. I mean, he started to shred that secondary, making it look really bad of the Ravens. But
Right.
I couldn't figure, or excuse me, of the Chiefs. But again, I've said this before. The Chiefs are not as strong. I do not see them winning the Super Bowl. They are not a strong team this year. I think the AFC West, with the Broncos on a tear the way they are, I think the West is potentially wide open for a shootout.
But they're
It's
nine
going to
and
be
three.
interesting. They are 9-3,
What does
but
that say about the AFC if the Chiefs, who you don't think are going to make the Super Bowl, are 9-3?
well, the AFC's weak. Well, it was weak. I should say
Yeah.
that. With the Broncos coming up, I don't see the AFC being that weak anymore. I mean, you
Mm,
got the Chiefs are at 8-3, Broncos are at 6-5. The Raiders exposed the Chiefs big time last night with their secondary. I mean, they showed the world, hey, if you want to hurt these guys, you got to play long game too. Don't play 10-yard routes, play 25 and 30-yard routes and get a couple of those big plays and throw that defense off. Because when you do that to the Ravens, they can't blitz as much. They can't bring the other guys up. If their secondary is getting beat, they got to have coverage. And that makes them like any other team now. And
mhm. Yep.
if you look at their defensive stats yesterday, that's the point. Look at what their defense did. Pretty weak.
Yeah,
Pretty weak. Got
absolutely.
the right turnovers at the right time, but beyond that, it wasn't looking good for them.
Which is what they always say is a good defense gets you to the Super Bowl and a good offense will win the Super Bowl for you. So, the Chiefs don't have
Well,
that defense right now. They have the offense. They don't have the
yep.
defense. So, your pick is that they will not be returning, which I completely understand.
No, believe it or not, I'll tell you, I've said it before, I say it again. I still think the Ravens. I mean, yesterday's game was not a great game for the Ravens. They did pull out the victory, which they were a heavy favorite to do. Or I'm sorry, they were a favorite to do. They weren't a heavy favorite. Um, but they did pull out the victory. But they showed some chinks in the armor too with that secondary as well yesterday.
Yeah. Yep.
And that's, again, and that didn't allow the defense to put up massive points like it normally does. The Chiefs, on the other hand, even worse performance. So, yeah, I don't see the Chiefs there. The question is who in the AFC is going to beat them, and that's where I think the Ravens come in. But the real question gets into the NFC because the
Yeah.
NFC is,
Yeah.
I mean, the AFC is almost everybody's got it nailed down. Ravens or Chiefs, right? I mean, and to
Yep.
me, I got the Ravens on top. NFC, holy buckets, wide open. You got the
Hmm.
Vikes coming up. You got Green Bay. If they squeak in, they're going to be dangerous, really dangerous if they squeak in, which I don't see that happening still. I still don't, unless the Lions stay falling apart. If the Lions continue their downward spiral and playing bad, you could see the Vikes take the North and the Packers actually make the wild card, knocking the Lions out in Week 17. That would be amazing,
That would be
amazing.
amazing with the start that
Yeah,
they've had. That would be amazing. But it would be
yeah, but
typical Lions football, right?
yeah, but look at their last 3 games. What do I keep saying about their last 3 games? They're in no
They're
man's
playing
land.
real teams. Yeah.
They're playing three tough teams. They got the Vikings twice, and who's that third one in the middle?
Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah, buddy. One of the best defenses in the game. So I'm just saying, Lions, you're going to have a hard time running the ball against Dallas. I think you're going to have a hard time running the ball against the Vikings. I think you go 0-3 in those final 3 games. That final game of the season could decide the entire North, everybody in it. And then, of course, you got the Niners playing
Hmm.
very good. But, of course, Philly's just quietly steamrolling along.
And when Hertz is on, right? That run into the end zone, you could almost predict it. You could almost predict seeing that coming because he just marched right down the field and he made it look so easy. Saw an opening, started running, accelerated, and then he just kind of ran right into the end zone. And the Bills that were diving at him were kind of gingerly diving at him because they realized even if they hit him, he's going to get to the end zone. But they had their teammate on the other side. They didn't want to hit their other teammate. So as every football player knows to do, you run between two defenders, right? So they hit each other. So yeah, it was an interesting play yesterday. A lot of teams that you kind of go, okay, I see you. You're for real. I see the 49ers. I see you. I see you. The Eagles, they came from behind on the Bills. The Bills were dominating, which was great and good to see as because I have Josh Allen as my fantasy quarterback. So I loved him
You're
coming back
biased.
and running in 2 touchdowns, but I
You're
thought as a
biased.
team I thought they did pretty well. But, they did the thing that our Vikings team has sorry, my Vikings team has always done. They go into prevent defense, which means we'll give you everything in front of us, and then we got our backs against the wall, and now how do we stop you from getting into the red zone, which that 20 yards compresses, and yes, it changes the routes and changes the football game, but you're close. You're within the red zone. So they did the same thing the Vikings do, which we've talked about this offline, you and I. And the thing that amazes me is KOC. I think is a very articulate, very well spoken, smart coach, a coordinator, calls plays well most of the time. But I question the loss to Denver when he was playing for a field goal or he was playing for them to take their timeouts, he called two running plays into the middle of a defensive line that was
Yeah.
showing 6 to 8 in the box. They didn't check out of it and hit a slant, hit a tight end in a drag over the middle or anything like that. They just
Anything.
ran the ball right into the middle and eventually gave the game to the Denver Broncos. That is from a fan's point of view, having played the game, not at the NFL level, but having played the game, that is so frustrating to see them not going for the jugular. They should
I
have closed the
I
game
treat
out.
it the same way as I treat it the same way as investing, and I've always said the same thing. If you spend 50 years of your life investing before you get to retirement account or before you get to retirement, and you've won the whole way and you've made great returns the whole way, why do you change your methodology in the end? Why?
Fear, fear,
Fear. Fear of
fear that
losing.
you lose
Fear
everything,
of
right?
losing. Yep.
Yep.
And why do
Mm.
people jump in when stocks and cryptos and stuff are running through the ceiling? Because then they got the FOMO, the fear of
Yes, fear
missing
of
out.
missing out. Exactly.
Right. So it's fear that drives it. So for young KOC, and I say young KOC, the guy's like 38 years old, man. I
Second
mean,
year as a head coach. Yep.
yeah, young KOC, you're doing well, but don't lose. If you could change one thing about you right now, don't lose the recipe. If you're winning a
Yeah.
game, don't change the recipe because you're winning. And that recipe is good for that team in that situation. And when you see Buffalo do the same thing that they did, gave the game to Philly, playing the old prevent. I have been a negative person on the prevent my whole life.
Yep.
So I started watching my first football game because the prevent defense just listen. If you're up by 2 touchdowns, fine, play prevent. Who cares? Who cares? Let them get down to the goal line and make them burn some timeouts. Who cares? Then they got to get an onside kick, which I don't like the new rules in the onside kick. It's not even worth trying anymore.
Mm,
It's just a waste of time unless you got a kicker who knows how to kick the ball off the ground and make it go up 15, 20 feet in the air before it comes down to give the defense team enough time to try to get underneath it. That's just a complete waste of play now. It's a waste of
yeah.
play. But the
Yep.
prevent is a terrible, terrible philosophy and should never be used. Countless games have been lost to the prevent, and I don't like it. So yeah, KOC, you need to change that. You were
Yeah.
winning that game. You probably should have won that game, truth be told,
Should
because
have.
as Brad was saying, when those final three plays, really the two that we're talking about, the runs up the gut, when those happened, he really screwed up. I mean,
Oh,
you could see it a mile away. The Goodyear
hmm
blimp could see it. The
Yep.
space satellites could see it. The space station saw it and said, "What are you doing?"
Martians saw it.
Martians were up there, and they couldn't figure it out. And they were
Right.
wondering why. And I mean, you know, run the screen. The defense was over pursuing and getting on you all night long and putting pressure. Throw the screen.
Mm-hmm.
Forget the deep, but throw the screen. Throw a slant route. Slant route would have been great, especially with all them linebackers coming up and the safeties coming
Yep.
up like they were. That would have been just wonderful. You'd had an open slot 7, 8 yards down the field and just keep running. Um, so there was
Yeah.
opportunities and they didn't see it. And how they didn't see it 2 plays in a row is probably the most disappointing part. You just and why did they do that? Let's get to the real brass tacks of it. Fear of losing the football.
Yeah. We have a negative turnover ratio of -6. It's a real thing that
Yep.
they keep putting the ball on the ground. So I agree.
That's
So
the
all right.
Achilles heel.
So a quick episode to close it up. What do you need for the Vikings for your parlay tonight? You need them to
I
win by
just
a
need the
certain
Vikes
amount
to win.
or just
Nope.
win outright?
I just took them outright. I don't.
Outright.
Yeah, one thing about me is people always go for the big, huge money and parlays. I'm the opposite. To me, you pick good teams. You pick them outright to win. That way, if there's because there's opportunities, right, where you pick good teams to win or to play them with the points, and they don't cover, but they still win. To me, I
Right.
don't like that action. I took Denver in the over. I took Denver and I took the over. I took Atlanta. I had New York. I had New
New
York. New
York.
York. I actually took with points. New York. I took with points because that game was a little like I'm not sure. I figured that one could come down to a kick. So if it came down to a kick, I figured 3.5 points was a good round number to have. Let's see here. Then of course, I took the Ravens. I took the Chiefs. Got a little nervous in the
Baltimore.
first. Yeah, I took the Ravens. Yep, took Ravens. Baltimore took the Chiefs. And then I think the last piece of it was the final game, the Vikes and the Bears, which again I'm sitting pretty confident at this point. I feel like I crossed my hurdles with the over score in the Broncos game, and I felt like I crossed my hurdle with the New York game. Those
and
two
how
games were solid.
and how did you come to, well, you know what? Let's not give away the sauce. All right, so that's the episode for today. Our next podcast, we will see what you how you came out. How did you fare? Did you win your parlay or
We'll
did you
find
not?
out. We'll find out what's going on with the Vikes. I'm expecting dominance. So
All right. Have a great time.
that was fun.
See ya.
You too. Later,
Go
man.
Vikes.
Go Vikes!
He lives and breathes the Minnesota Vikings.
I don't even know what to say. We're still having fun. He caught it, and he paid for it.
Houston, we have a problem.
Playoffs?
And he's lose.
Playoffs? I mean, whatever you want to say.
You lucky suckers.
Luck has nothing to do with it.
The Vikings are going to win. Touchdown!